Hello, I'm Dr. Charlie Haylock, and this is a dialect tour of the British Isles and further afield for the Heritage Open Day 2025. I'm going to read a little excerpt from the Cambridge Encyclopedia of the English Language. Disparagement of regional speech readily transmutes into disparagement of the speakers. The study of regional linguistic variation has more to offer than purely descriptive interest. The more we know about regional variation and the change in the use of English, the more we will come to appreciate the striking individuality of each of the varieties which we call dialects. An essential first step is to replace the notion that a regional variety is only a dialect because it lacks the prestige of the standard language, with the realisation that every dialect is a source of great linguistic complexity and potential. I'm going to start the dialect tour of the British Isles and further afield in Scotland. And this is because I met a deaf bloke who, up until the age of 18, had acute hearing. And then there was an explosion in the workshop and he had burst eardrums and he lived in a world of silence. He learned how to lip read, and if you have a dialect, he'll tell you where you come from. In the Glasgow area and the hinterland. Teeth on top of one another, the mouth drops down at the side and noise comes from behind the teeth. They also roll their R's, and to do that, your tongue must be very, very close to the roof of the mouth. And they find it very difficult to pronounce the double L in the middle of a word, and it ends up a W. So you drop it down at the side there, and it's William and brilliant. But if you just open your mouth a bit wider, it's Edinburgh, and you can now pronounce the double L. Go across to Northern Ireland, put the top set in front of the bottom set. The noise comes from behind the teeth, and you push the bottom lip out. To get the sure sound in our nine, put the top set in front of the bottom set and push the bottom lip out. You've got to do that. It's a very lilting dialect, but it can be very aggressive. Ian Paisley would have read out the Shopman list, and that would have been aggressive. 2 pounds of Brussels sprouts. You go to the Republic of Ireland and they all talk through a her sound. It's a constant her. All the time they're talking to a her sound. And in the Irish Gaelic, you don't put your tongue in between your teeth like we do with mother, brother and through. The tongue stays behind the teeth. So the hard TH becomes a D. So it's mudder, fodder. But the soft TH, they pronounce both the T and the H. So healthy becomes healthy, and filthy becomes filthy, and 3 becomes tree. So I did a tour of South West Ireland, and there they move their heads around, head goes up, head goes down. I saw an advertisement in the paper. The police was coming round the corner, but all the time they're talking for her sound. You go to Dublin and they talk slightly out the side of the mouth. Where a north side or a south side, they're talking slightly out the side of the mouth. Come across to Liverpool, teeth on top of one another, noise from the back of the throat, travels through the nose and the mouth goes to one side. And Mr. Jewell, who was a Liverpudlian who used to look after Ipswich Town, he wouldn't say full back, it would be full back. Full back. It's nasal, goes through the nose. And then if he's going to talk about the blue shirt of Ipswich, it's blue shirt. But if you're a woolly back who lives on the outskirts of Liverpool, the mouth doesn't go to one side. And so it's blue shirt. Still nasal, still goes through the nose, but it's blue shirt. As soon as you go into Liverpool, the mouth goes to one side and it becomes blue shirt. And that's why you get dirty from number 30. You go to the Midlands, and the Midlands speak from the roof of the mouth and make a circle with the lips. So if you're Coventry, Wolverhampton, Birmingham or Black Country, right, the noise comes from the roof of the mouth, make a circle with the lips. Now here we'll find tune, we watch how people speak first, you say. You then go to Yorkshire, and Yorkshire talk with their jaw very stiff. So if you're watching Geoffrey Boycott, he's talking with jaw, right stiff is that. You go to the northeast, and the noise comes from the back of the throat, the jaw stays very still, and the head goes up slightly. And my partner and I and Ruth, we went to Northumbria for a holiday. And we went to a place called Alnwick, where the castle is where they filmed Harry Potter. And this actually didn't happen in the castle in Alnwick, but it happened in a cafe in Alnwick. And when I give my stories, I call this an anecdote. So we ordered a round of sandwiches each and a pot of tea for 2, and we sat down. And when we finished them, I say to Ruth, we're going to go and pay the bill. So I walked up the counter, and the lady behind the counter said, "What would you like, pet?" I said, "I want to pay, please." She said, "Why, aye? What sort?" I said, what do you mean, what sort? She says, well, we got blackberry and apple pie and just plain apple. So I said, no, I don't want a pie, I want a pie. Why, blackberry and apple or just plain apple? So I said, no, I want to pay the bill. She went, oh, you want a fare? So I said, why, I want a fare. She said, why didn't you say? I said, I did. By which time Ruth was crying with laughter watching us do. Anyway, you now go into Lancashire and they curl their tongue and the noise comes from the back of the throat. So if you're a Bolton, Blackburn or Burnley, you're curling your tongue and it's coming from here. Go to South Wales, teeth on top of one another, big broad grin. Very easy, do a South Welsh accent, teeth together, keep on smiling. Do you know what? I had an awful day today and I keep on smiling. Even when we lost to England at rugby. We then go to the West Country. Now, the West Country, you resonate down here. To get the sound, you can note from down here. Now, Cornish will make a circle with the lip, so it's Cornish. You then come up to Somerset and they put the teeth together, so it's Somerset. So you've gone from Cornish to Somerset, but you're still resonating just there. When you come above the Adam's apple, you're now in Hampshire. And the best exponent of the Hampshire dialect for me is a chap called John Arlott. And in the 1960s, this is what he said on the radio. The New Zealand wicket keeper, legs astride, waiting for a tickle. You then get a little bit further up. We're getting towards the front of the mouth, but now we're going to resonate there. And we're in the Vale of Oxford and Pam Ayres. Now, Ruth and I, we went and saw Pam Ayres do her one-woman show in Clacton in Essex, and she had the cheek to tell Essex people that the Ugly Sisters came from Fordham in Essex, and she gave them a little limerick. Now, you must resonate just there. The Ugly Sisters, they came from... Now, it's not down here. The Ugly Sisters, that's not Pam Ayres. And if you're too far forward, you haven't got the rhotic R. So you must resonate there. The Ugly Sisters, they came from Fordham. They went for a walk due to boredom. And on the way back, they met her sex maniac. And he totally ignored them. We're now going to get to the front of the mouth. And now we're in Suffolk and Norfolk. And when I was on the Netflix film The Dig, teaching the actors how to have a proper Suffolk accent. So when I had the actors in front of me, it was more important to get the mouth movements right and ear would fine-tune it. So I said to them, I'm now going to do a Suffolk and a Norfolk accent, and I want you to tell me what the difference is. But because I had them out wide like that, I turned, so I said, this is Suffolk. Would you like a cup of tea, do you? Norfolk, would you like a cup of tea there? And then I turned like that so they could see, and I say, would you like a cup of tea, do you? And then, would you like a cup of tea there? And I asked the actors, I said, did any of you see the difference? And one actor said, I did. I said, what's the difference? They said, well, Suffolk people turn to the right when they talk, and Norfolk people turn to the left. Well, once they'd laughed at that silly response, they worked out that Suffolk people push the lips out when they speak, and Norfolk don't. Suffolk is the hardest accent for actors to manage, because we resonate at the front of the mouth and we push the lips out when we speak. And along with Glaswegian, we are the hardest accent for lip readers to lip read. So it's how and now and Ipswich Town, and that's why Suffolk has the double syllable. We now come to London, and wherever you go in the world, the largest is the fastest. Paris is the fastest French dialect, Oslo is the fastest Norwegian dialect, and New York is the fastest American. Ipswich is the fastest Suffolk dialect. Norwich is the fastest Norfolk dialect, right? And the largest town in Essex, yes, that is the fastest one as well in Essex. But East London is no exception. It's the fastest English accent anywhere where English is spoken. Not only is it the fastest English accent, they open their mouth wider than any English accent. And because they talk so fast and open their mouth so wide, they don't have time to shut it. To make a terse sound, you've actually got to have your teeth together. They can't do that, so it's better leave it out. You're having a bird bath, aren't you? Because they talk so fast, they don't have time to put their tongue in between their teeth like we do with mother, brother and through. It's mother, brother, through. They also can't hit the roof of their mouth with the tongue, so therefore the L on the end of words ends up a W. So it's tell and del and little. I'm now going to start putting some accents together. There was a mass migration from Suffolk to Australia in the 1820s, 30s, 40s and 50s. There were adverts for farm labourers, dairymaids, milkmaid shepherds and lots of Suffolk farming folk in their tens of thousands went out to Australia. Then there were adverts in the Suffolk Chronicle for women aged between 15 and 20, and if approved of by the committee, out to Australia free of charge, because they were going to be the childbearers and help populate the colonies. Then if you add in the prison ships, East London prison ships and Suffolk prison ships were more than the rest of the country put together. So Suffolk is the basis of the Australian dialect with an input from East London. So what you have is, I don't open my mouth wide enough to say day. It's D. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And if I try and say that with my mouth wide open, it becomes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that is the basis of the Australian dialect. There was a mass migration from Scotland also to New Zealand. Dunedin is the Scottish Gaelic for Edinburgh. So you've got Dunedin, Auckland, Christchurch, Hamilton, Invercargill, Stewart Island, Oban. And because Scottish people don't open their mouth very wide, most New Zealanders don't open their mouth wide either. And with the slave trade, before we started going over to Africa to take black communities to the West Indies and the Carolinas and the Virginias, we went to Ireland and we rounded up lots of Irish people and sent them out as enslaved people, especially to Jamaica. And if you hear the Jamaican dialect, today you can still hear the big Irish influence. Whether it be a black dialect or a white dialect in Jamaica, you won't hear me bawling any homesick tears if I don't see Jamaica for 1,000 years. You can still hear that Irish influence. And accents are changing all the time. The one I did previous on the East London, that no longer is in East London, because with the Windrush and with more people coming in from the Caribbean, also from other parts of the world, that accent in East London has changed. And even you get the white kids and the black kids, there they are at school together and they're mingling in together, and so it's now the BBC and they have the hand movements to go with it. But what has happened when East London moved out, with all the new towns that were built, like Basildon, like Harlow, and then on the Suffolk-Essex border you had places like Cornard and you had Haverhill, they were East London moved out into those areas. So now you've got an estuary English from London to Southend, but in those towns I've mentioned, although they're the grandchildren of the people moved out, they are the old East London accents still alive there. And the more we have that movement with new accents changing and everything else, it means that it's alive, it doesn't die. I hope you've enjoyed my talk. Thank you kindly.